Welcome, everybody, to this glorious Monday morning here at Club Fantasy. I'm Josh Hudson. This is Monday's Hangxiety. Yes, this is our weekly recap show. We apologize. We missed last week. Ryan was a little sick. You know what? And he's still sick, but that's okay. I called in reinforcements this week because you cannot go 2 straight weeks without seeing us. And damn it, we're here to recap all of Week 11. I brought Austin Amandolia, one of our hosts of DFS Academy, and one of our featured writers here at Club Fantasy to break down all of the Week 11 action. Let's get into it. I always love that intro. I just want to give props to Mr. Joe Zolo, my co-host on No Pun Intended. Did a damn good job on that one. But like I said in the intro, I'm Josh Hudson, filling in for host of Monday's Hangxiety. I'm usually on the other side, or other side. I got to get this damn mirror thing right. It's just not working for me this morning. This is why I like Mondays. I'm still catching up because I don't sleep much because I get home really late because I close on Sundays. But Austin, you're an early bird. So you're going to be carrying the show for me today.
Yeah, this is a regular occurrence to me. I've been working since like 8:30. It's great.
Love that for you. Love that for you. All right. How was your Week 11, buddy?
Pretty good. You know, I'm continuing my effort to have the first overall pick in our Club Dynasty League, and I am on the verge of ending Faith's 8-game winning streak in our redraft league. So feels pretty good.
Heyo. Nice. I haven't even looked at my scores. The only thing I know is that one of my trades in our Club Dynasty League got accepted. So welcome CD Lamb to the squad.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice trade. I actually have thoughts on that, and it's related to one of the players I have selected in the show sheet.
Very nice. Love that. All right. So this is usually how we kick things off. We go round by round, recapping the scores of the week, and I got to pull that up because Ryan typically does this, and I'm clearly behind. So let's start with Thursday night. Bengals, Ravens. God almighty, that was just terrible. Ravens 34-20, but the big news here, Mark Andrews, done for the year. Joe Burrow, done for the year. Oh, it's just painful. Just painful. All right, skipping over to Sunday. Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13. Browns over the Steelers in just a defensive... Can we call it a struggle? Defensive struggle? Defensive showdown? I don't even know because, God, that was just a terrible struggle. Game to watch. It was a lot of stuff, but not good. But game-winning field goal for the Browns, Dustin Hopkins with 2 seconds left. The Lions should not have had to come back to beat the Bears, but they did, 31-26. Packers edge out the Chargers 23-20. You will have thoughts. I have thoughts on that one later. Giants surprise the Commanders 31-19. Cowboys just trounced the Panthers 33-10. Jaguars down the Titans 34-14. The Texans, man, that was a good one. That was a fun one to watch. Texans 21-16 over the Cardinals. 49ers beat the Bucks 27-14. The Bills just own the Jets 32-6. The Rams squeaked by the Seahawks 17-16. And Sunday night's game, the Broncos and the Vikings. Cortland Sutton, baby, with the game-winning touchdown. 21-20 over the Vikings. Man, that was a fun one to watch, not going to lie. Austin, any thoughts? Quick thoughts on these early games before we get into the injuries?
Well, first off, love Cortland Sutton getting in the end zone. It really helped my showdown slate to make up for some of my cash losses earlier in the day. So that was nice. But yeah, it was interesting. Bunch of slogs of games. Very few that really compelled me. Some of them are like, cool, I got to watch this bad quarterback play this other bad quarterback. How fun is that? So enjoy these second and third string quarterbacks playing each other.
Oh, it's so bad. It's one of these things like, how can the NFL, how are there so few, even just quality quarterbacks?
Yeah.
And like teams, there's 32 teams. So even quality back, that would put 64 quality quarterbacks available, and there's maybe like 15. That is a product problem. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
God, so bad. So bad. All right. The unnecessary shot of Rumplemints. This is our key injuries of the week. As I mentioned previously, Joe Burrow, Mark Andrews, done for the year. That was on Thursday, so we kind of beat that dead horse. But a few other injuries of note. Aaron Jones left Sunday's game with a knee injury. They initially thought it may be an ACL because it did look pretty bad. They called out the cart. Some of the preliminary tests, things came out positive, so they're actually thinking maybe it's a short term. I remember Joel last night on our Dynasty show mentioned that Aaron Jones has had MCL issues in the past on his knee. So this could maybe be something along those lines, and maybe he misses the rest of the fantasy regular season. Never want to wish for injuries, but let's be honest, Aaron Jones hasn't helped your fantasy teams much this year. Speaking as somebody who has Aaron Jones on a lot of fantasy teams, I can attest to that. Devon Achane left again with a knee injury when we all got excited that he was coming back from said knee injury. Sounds like, based on the press conference after the game from Mike McDaniel, that it was precautionary, that Achane was itching to come back in. They just didn't want to push it too much simply because of the rust. Those of you in half PPR leagues, your one fantasy point. Yeah, buddy. Deonta Foreman left the game with an ankle injury, did not return. Darius Slayton, after putting up a pretty decent game for the Giants, left with an arm injury. Cooper Kupp left with an ankle injury. Probably the biggest injury news, though, Kenneth Walker left with an oblique. Carroll speculated that it seems, quote, legit, and that he could ultimately miss a few games. We'll obviously have some thoughts on Zach Charbonnet a little bit later. Austin, you got something to on?
Yeah, which if Pete Carroll is being pessimistic about a player returning, something's up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And staying in that game, Geno Smith left with a right arm injury. He did come in for the final drive, though. So hopefully it's not too serious long term. All right. Shot of espresso. Quality performances of the week. Austin, I texted you and I said, all right, so this is usually how we build this show for SEO purposes. I gave you two options and you picked the golden boy.
Yeah. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he goes 24 for 32, 262 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is fine. If he had done that, honestly, I think probably most of us would have been okay. We would have been like, yeah, okay, great. Trevor Lawrence getting back to average. That's at least what we need for you to warrant where we drafted you. But then he adds on 5 rushing attempts, 17 yards, not a lot of yards, but 2 rushing touchdowns. Who knew Trevor Lawrence was going to outrush Josh Allen this week, apparently, and put up 36.2 fantasy points. That's including 6-point passing touchdown leagues, because that's what we do here at Club Fantasy. And yeah, QB1 of the week, finally getting the show back on the road, which is hilarious because, of course, this is the week that I would have taken the Tennessee Titans +7 because I just didn't have faith in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And all of a sudden,
I mean, how could you after the freaking 49ers just dismantled them last week? Like, my goodness.
Yeah, it was so rough. But Trevor Lawrence seemingly back on track. I didn't get to watch this game to see it, but box score watching, I mean, it feels nice. If you had him on your team, you felt good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 4 touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence. Oof, love that. And 2 of those went to your next guy.
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Ridley. How could I not shout out Calvin Ridley, former Atlanta Falcon? Wish for the best for the guy. Gets 7 catches on 9 targets, 103 yards, and both touchdowns. Both of those passing touchdowns. Finishes with 31.1 points. I think this is probably just going to end up being a blip on the radar. Frankly, like, he's going to be a volatile player, I feel like, through the rest of the year. Christian Kirk still feels like the number 1 option in this offense, but it's awesome to see Calvin Ridley doing well. Maybe this is a sign of something to come, but honestly, the Tennessee Titans, they've been giving it up to number 1 X receivers throughout the year. So I wouldn't buy too much into this, but it's still exciting to see Ridley be successful.
I just love seeing the echo chamber on the site formerly known as Twitter, that everybody is like, yeah, you're welcome for Calvin Ridley popping off because he's on my bench.
Yeah, for real. For real. Yeah, it was hilarious because I was like staring at him in DFS this week. I was like, that matchup, it's good sometimes. Sometimes it's really good, but I couldn't do it.
It has a lot of Christian Kirk. Very disappointed.
Yeah, but next week, who knows? Calvin
and I love how on this next one you like completely flip the script because this is an offensive show, Austin. We do offense around these parts, but hey, you know what? Give some flowers to my chief rival over there with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just Micah Parsons came off of 0 points last week in IDP leagues, at least in most of the scoring systems I'm in. And then this week he ends up with 6 tackles and 2.5 sacks. So Micah Parsons, welcome back to just like making things feel good. Hopefully this is a sign of more things to come. I got really excited when those first 2 sacks happened in the first quarter. I was like, oh boy, historic day coming up. Let's go Khalil Mack's 6 sack type day. That's what I was hoping for. And then all of a sudden it was just another half sack the remaining 3 quarters. Don't know how that happened, but hey.
He doesn't want to suck away all of Bryce Young's confidence. He's got to ease him into it a little bit, that's he was trying to do the young cat a favor,
There you go. All
right. So for my shot of espresso this week, it would have been really easy to pick Saquon Barkley. I mean, RB1 on the week. Not a great rushing day, but 2 receiving touchdowns. But we have our next segment for the performances that we think will continue on. This is the shot that we needed, right? Like, I don't want to see a top quarterback end up in the NFC East. So you know what? The Giants keep winning. By all means, keep winning with a 3rd string quarterback. And Tommy fucking DeVito, baby, the first Giants quarterback since 2019 to throw for 3 or more touchdown passes in a game. And here's the most glaring stat that I freaking love for the 2023 season. The starting quarterback of the New York Giants heading into this season had all of 2 passing touchdowns on the year. And Tommy DeVito did that in 4 quarters, baby. Go, Tommy DeVito. Let's go. Austin, for now on, every single preview that you write in the offseason, I am instantly fading that player. I'm letting you know that right now because you were all on board this Daniel Jones bandwagon heading into 2023.
Hey, to be fair, I did say to fade Chase Claypool in one of my preview articles, and that panned out. So
this is fair.
Wins and losses. Yeah. I don't know. I gotta be careful about who I pick. I'm gonna just start picking players I don't like for those preview articles. Because Daniel Jones just has not been it this year, which I think there's more problems than just Daniel Jones.
Oh, there is. There's a lot.
That offense is just a train wreck, but I just expected him to repeat what he did last year. And like, it didn't feel like last year was like some like breakneck season that was like a outlier. It's like, oh, this could be average Daniel Jones. Like, cool, whatever. No, it was just been awful all year, but I guess Tommy DeVito is going to be the solution.
Yeah. I mean, this is what happens when you bet on a 33-year-old tight end as your wide receiver 1 with a history of hamstring issues.
Yeah.
And a bad offensive line. Yeah.
Which honestly goes back to my preview, because this was my point in my preview article, was like Daniel Jones has never had like consecutive games with the same set of starting receivers. And here we are again. You're cycling through different receivers game after game because they either get hurt or for whatever reason they decide this is a Wan'Dale Robinson week or a Darius Slayton week, and you can't build chemistry that way. So I don't get the offensive game plan there, but that's not the point. The point is Tommy DeVito apparently killing it moving forward.
QB1, baby. Let's go. All right, morning mimosas. This section here, it's a nice little tingling feeling. Something's on the horizon. Maybe things start kind of trending upwards over the next few weeks. We talked briefly about Mr. Zach Charbonnet there in the opener with the injury to Kenneth Walker. Austin, I mean, you got to love the snap share from this week. That's for sure.
Yeah. And even before Kenneth Walker went down, Charbonnet was getting some run, which was really nice. But 21 touches, he had 15 rushing attempts and 6 catches. That's the big thing for me. 6 catches on 6 targets. finishes with 12.9 fantasy points. It's a solid outing. If he had gotten in the end zone, then it would have been even better. But I feel good about his usage in this offense. I like him as a DFS player this week. If you're playing Thanksgiving Day DFS, just because he's going to be cheaper and he's going to have the usage. So I feel good about this moving forward. He's going to be a top waiver wire ad if he's not already rostered. And yeah, there's not much more to say about it. I mean, this Seattle Seahawks offense, I'm still betting on some regression in terms of touchdowns. Like, they've been not great in terms of red zone scoring this year. They've converted very little of their red zone attempts into touchdowns. And I think eventually that's going to change. Like, this offense is too good, too high power. So Zach Charbonnet should be in line for some pop-off weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks in general, like, last year really felt like an outlier for Geno Smith. And yet everybody decided to jump on that bandwagon and say, you know what, he can do it again. And lo and behold, really hasn't. This is kind of what happened. Like, I feel like we're all going to talk ourselves into Josh Dobbs next year because it's going to be the same freaking thing, right? Like, he's popping off this year, Cinderella story. We all want to root for him. It's kind of the same thing with Geno. Like, we all wanted to root for the guy because we know what he went through the first 10 years of his career. But at the end of the day, there's a reason that he didn't do anything for 10 years. Some people just get hot at the right times. And, you know, so I don't know. But
you say that, but he was being drafted as like QB 13, 14. It's only QB 19. So it's not like we were going that out there being like,
well, no, I understand that. I mean, granted, I mean, I think in my final rankings, I had him as like QB 10, QB 11. And a lot of that was just because, you know, they added more weapons and they have good weapons, you know? So you kind of expect, like, all right, even if he drops off a little, the weapons are good enough to kind of keep his overall stats afloat. And that's kind of proven the opposite this year. Like, you can have good weapons all you want, but if the quarterback play just isn't great, you know, things are going to struggle. But speaking of quarterback play, your next guy's kind of struggled a little bit too for a rookie. But hey, you know what? A terrible performance this past week.
Yeah, I mean, against a really tough Miami Dolphins defense, Aidan O'Connell, I felt, did okay. Sure, he had 3 interceptions, and they were pretty gross, but he ends up with 271 passing yards and a touchdown. Like, that amount of volume is promising to me. He's trending in the right direction. He's getting Davante Adams involved. He had a beautiful pass to him down the field for a long touchdown to Adams, which was incredible to see for fantasy managers of Davante Adams. He gets ends up with 11.14 fantasy points. Like, again, not a great day in terms of fantasy production, but enough signs that I'm keeping my eye on Aidan O'Connell moving forward. I wouldn't be shocked if he had a decent day coming up where he scores 20 to 25 fantasy points. I'm not going to like go crazy and think, oh, 30, 40, that's it. But initially I'm like, okay, Aidan O'Connell, he was seen as an interesting prospect coming in. A lot of people liked him from an NFL perspective, and he's showing some stuff. Enough for me to kind of just keep an eye out on him and see what's to come over the next several weeks.
Well, I think the biggest thing too, when you're projecting out Aidan O'Connell and what you're truly hoping for isn't necessarily those 20, 25 point games from him. It's how involved can he get Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers, potentially Michael Mayer, obviously Josh Jacobs. Like, those are the things that we want to see, because competent quarterback play will lead to the weapons getting more touches and helping us win fantasy matchups. That's what it all boils down to.
See, that's what you want, but my DFS brain is like, no, 1 week, Aidan O'Connell's going to be $4,500 on DraftKings, and I'm going to hit that button because I'm going to be like, this is the week he gets me 15 to 20 points, and that's going to be great.
If I'm ever looking at Aidan O'Connell over $4,500 on DraftKings to potentially put in my lineup, I know that I have a gambling problem. But speaking of gambling, so this next guy, we're big fans, Ryan and myself. We love this kid out of Boise State. It was a lot of fun to watch. We kind of had some high hopes going into the season because we didn't really know how this whole slot position was going to work out in the Buffalo offense. Austin, Khalil Shakir kind of took off this week.
Yeah, he's getting some more attention. And what really got me more than his 3 catches on 4 targets, 115 yards and a touchdown, was the way Josh Allen reacted when he scored that touchdown. I have not seen Josh Allen be so ecstatic score a touchdown in weeks. And it just made me wonder, is this relationship starting to build? Is the trust starting to get there? And is Khalil Shakir going to start taking off in this offense? He's kind of a speculative ad for me right now. I'm not like about to, set the world on fire with him and just start him week to week, but he's a guy that I traded for in a couple of dynasty leagues before the season. And I'm very happy he's stashed on my bench because Gabe Davis hasn't been it. He got a goose egg on Sunday.
Let's be honest. Are we really surprised by that?
No, and that's the part
Mr. Boom Bust himself was a goose egg. Woo!
But that's part of the point, right? We need some more consistency, or Buffalo just needs more consistency from their receivers. If you get Steph Diggs, Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid, I mean, I feel pretty decent about those three guys, and I'm hoping that this relationship, this trust continues to build between Allen and Shakir.
I like it. I'm all for it. I mean, I think the biggest thing really, can Kincaid and Shakir coexist as like the slots in this offense, right? Because it feels like when one goes off, the other struggles, vice versa, etc. So, but again, like this was a historically bad week for Stefon Diggs, which we'll get to him in a little bit too. But I don't know. I mean, obviously there was the big play for the touchdown, kind of skews some of the numbers a little bit, but all in all, like I said, I'm rooting for the kid. I would love to see it. So, but yeah, I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit because my morning mimosa is a little different. So let's talk a little bit about the Browns offense, because with Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming into play here, this is going to be a very interesting offense. Obviously, they want to limit the turnovers and just let the defense do its job. At a certain point, though, DTR is going to have to win them some football games. I'm not 100% convinced he can do that, although that final drive this past week, very encouraging. But my morning mimosa goes to David Njoku and Amari Cooper, but again, for very opposite reasons. So in 2 starts with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, David Njoku has seen 7 targets and 15 targets in those 2 games. Saw 15 targets this past week. First game, he was 6 for 46. This past week, 7 for 56. Not really eye-popping numbers. But if we can get 10-plus points from a tight end in PPR scoring, I will take it. Especially if you're getting that without a touchdown. Okay. Amari Cooper, on the other hand, 6 targets and 8 targets, respectively. Those 6 targets in week 4 led to 1 catch for 16 yards. Sunday, 4 catches for 34 yards. Not great. But this is why it is not great for Amari Cooper. In 2023, Amari Cooper's yards per reception is 16.6, and his average depth of target is 14.2. Both of those numbers are the highest of his career. His yards after the catch per reception are the lowest of his career. DTR has an adjusted net yards per attempt of 0.76. Okay, which tells you he is not throwing deep at all. How does Amari Cooper win? Deep. For context sake, the lowest adjusted net yards per attempt among qualified passers is 2.69. He's that much lower than the aforementioned Daniel Jones. Okay. This is why I love David Njoku going forward. Njoku's ADOT is the lowest of his career at 2.9. Like, by far the lowest of his career. His yards after catch per reception, though, are the highest of his career. They are making a concerted effort to get David Njoku the football and let him just stiff arm and bulldoze people and let him make plays underneath, because that is the true safety blanket for DTR. So for all of you fantasy managers that just lost Mark Andrews and don't want to pay the premiums to go get a Trey McBride or Dalton Kincaid or Sam Laporta, Go get David Njoku for cheap.
I mean, I love it. Honestly, like I haven't been in on David Njoku for a while. He's been somebody that I've loved to fade, but the fact that he's getting all of these short targets is just perfect for a PPR setup. And
I mean, even half PPR to a degree.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think this is just the way the Browns offense is working right now. But Monty Jones was pointing this out on his podcast. Like when you read through their play-by-play, it's all short pass, short pass, short pass, short pass,
run,
which is just going to favor.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
Which is just going to favor a guy like David Njoku, who is a big body. He can box out defenders and catch those short yardage plays. I think it's a great play. And I honestly like Njoku's probably DFS cash viable moving forward for the DFS players, but definitely somebody to be looking for on the waiver wires.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so Njoku goes up. Amari Cooper. Sorry, buddy. Anyway, the hangover, the biggest head scratchers of the weekend. Austin, you're pulling at my heartstrings, man. I don't like this. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. It's busted for me 2 weeks in a row. Diontae Johnson is first on this list, catching 2 passes on 8 targets. If I told you Diontae Johnson got targeted 8 times on Sunday, you would feel great. But apparently Kenny Pickett can't make those passes catchable for him. Only gets 2 of those catches, 16 yards, ends up with 3.6 fantasy points. And it was going to be worse. We were in like the third quarter of this game, and Diontae Johnson had a straight up goose egg. And it just so happened that in crunch time, Kenny Pickett was able to finally get 2 passes to Diontae Johnson. Johnson is off my list for the foreseeable future until this offense shows it can do anything besides run the ball poorly. I am out on Diontae Johnson. And I hate it.
I have so much Diontae Johnson, it's not even funny.
I do too. But like I can't start him in leagues where I have him. Maybe he pops out for me in my best ball leagues where I have him, but he's just out of my player pool for the foreseeable future.
I think he's a free agent at the end of this year, and I cannot wait for some team to just throw like $24 million a year at him and just show the world why he sees all of these targets. I just want a quality quarterback throwing him the football because chef's kiss.
Yeah, which this translates to like a bigger head scratcher for me this week of like, what the heck is going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? Like, I know we've been on this train for weeks and people in Pittsburgh have been calling for Matt Canada to be fired, but this week in particular just blew my mind. How do you have Kenny Pickett not even passing for 100 yards and you let him continue to play quarterback? I don't get it. At this point, I'm like, we know what Kenny Pickett is. This isn't like
we also know what Mitchell Trubisky is, and he's the backup.
Fair. I'm like, are they hoping that Kenny Pickett pops off 1 week and they can like build his draft stock? Because I don't see it. And so I'm like, you just need to move on. You just need to take the L. Like, you're not going to be in a position to get a quarterback next year. This isn't like an Atlanta situation where it's like trying to get your rookie quarterback a full season to assess him. Like, we've already had the season of Kenny Pickett, and it's not going anywhere.
And that's the problem, though. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most loyal franchises. Like, they will let the people sink the boat and just say, you know what, we'll figure it out. Like, this isn't the 1970s. This isn't the 1980s, 1990s anymore. Like, it's just not how shit works anymore. So, I mean, credit to Mike Tomlin because he's keeping everything afloat. Like, I don't know how he hasn't had a losing season in his entire coaching career as the Steelers head coach. But yeah, they need some serious work on offense, serious work. But Austin, your next guy here, I'm again 2 weeks in a row. Quarterback comes back. I'm baffled just as much as you are.
Yeah, Marquise Brown goes 2 catches on 5 targets for 18 yards, ends up with 3.2 fantasy points. Even worse. And honestly, the thing about this is I've been excited for the return of Kyler Murray, because when it was him and Hollywood at the beginning of last season, Hollywood was killing it. He had a ridiculous target share those first several weeks. with Kyler Murray under center. And so I've been looking forward to it, but I don't know if like it's just been a couple of bad weeks or what, but he can't catch the ball. He's had some actual bad drops the past couple of weeks, and it makes me wonder, like, is Kyler Murray going to trust him moving forward? And I think that's the biggest problem is like Kyler Murray seems to love Trey McBride. He seems to love Rondale Moore. Even that, like, Rondale Moore gets one target, but it goes for a touchdown. That's awesome. And then all of a sudden, Greg Dortch is getting more targets and more catches than Hollywood Brown. I don't get it.
So I think this is kind of the mistake that people were making, trying to translate the Hollywood Brown beginning of last season with Kyler Murray into this season. These are two completely different offenses. Cliff Kingsbury hyper targets his wide receiver one, right? Like we saw that with Hollywood in the beginning of the year. We saw it with DeAndre Hopkins towards the end of the year. They're going to be a 10-plus target guy. Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, came from Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. They're not a high-volume passing team. Amari Cooper, for everything that he's done in Cleveland, I think last year had a 22 or 23% target share on the year. Like, it's not the high, 150, 160 target seasons. It was like 120, 134, I think is what he had.
That's fair.
That's kind of, and again, like if you don't have a quality wide receiver two, which they really never did in Cleveland.
Oh boy, Josh doing his little hotspot for his connection. So this is great because I just get to interrupt him and say my points, which is the problem with this argument is that Arizona, before Kyler Murray came back, Hollywood Brown, starting at week 1, had 5 targets, 10 targets, 7, 10, 10, 11, 7, 9, 8. Those were all the games without Kyler Murray. Oh, hi, Josh. You're back. So
Yikes. I don't know where I left off.
I don't either, but I'm just interrupting you and telling you why I think you're getting bought too much into this offensive coordinator switch up, because with Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune at quarterback, Hollywood Brown got the ball. The first weeks of the game, Hollywood had 5 targets, 10, 7, 10, 10, 11, 7, 9, 8. Kyler Murray shows up, 4 targets, 5 targets. What's going on?
What about the overall pass attempts?
I didn't pull that up. I just looked at his targets.
And sometimes too, again, you're looking at Kyler and, he's going to scramble. He's going to do a little bit of this. And keep in mind too, they just got James Conner back right around the same time that Kyler comes back. Whereas they win a whole stretch of games without a legitimate running back. I mean, when you're trying to feed 20 carries to Amari DiMercato, you've got some problems. James Conner can handle 20 plus carries. So there's just different dynamics to me in this offense with Kyler, without Kyler, but also Drew Petzing coming in and calling these plays and how they ultimately want to run this offense. So, I mean, I was trying to swing a deal for Hollywood in one of my redraft leagues, and I'm just kind of, after seeing this, I'm like, yeah, don't get phased. Don't fall in love with just the fact that he's a wide receiver one on a team. I just think that. So, but speaking of teams that are kind of sucking ass lately,
FYI, similar pass attempts.
Okay,
similar pass attempts.
All right, fair enough. All right. Speaking of teams that kind of suck ass, how about the Chargers offense? 20 points against a Green Bay Packers team that, quite frankly, sucks. Keenan Allen couldn't catch a cold. Quentin Johnston is doing his best Marquez Valdez-Scantling impression, going deep and dropping footballs.
Called it.
Austin Ekeler looked like he was running in a wind tunnel. Like, seriously, that 38-yard scamper or whatever it was, he looked like a fullback out there. It was bad. He looks hampered by something. But more to the point, he 12 touches all game and only 3 targets. Seriously? You have Mike Williams on IR. You have Josh Palmer on IR. You have your starting tight end, Gerald Everett, out. You have Jalen Guyton one of your wide receiver replacements out for this game, why are you not just feeding Austin Ekeler this football? He should have close to 30 touches in this game, with Keenan Allen getting 15 targets. That's what this offensive game plan should have been. And you score all of 20 points. What? Seriously, what? Kellen Moore has been on the interview head coach cycle the last few years. He's not doing himself any favors right now, at all, because his offensive play calling right now is god awful. I don't care how depleted their weapons are. They still have weapons on this offense. It is bad. You can say all you want about the Chargers defense and Brandon Staley's press conference after the fact, which was fucking hilarious. That man just needs to go. He should have been fired before the season even started. Quite frankly, probably should have never been hired, but I digress. This offense is a struggle bus, plain and simple. It hurts to watch. Absolutely hurts.
Yeah, I can't argue much with that. In fairness, they have a ton of injuries, which really sucks. But I think that's been one of the underplayed narratives of this season is when people are complaining about this 4th down conversion didn't go well or whatever. They should have won this game. We haven't talked enough about the play calling and the times where I think the right decision was made, but the wrong play call was made, and it ended up making the team look bad overall. But it wasn't up to par. And it's fascinating to see this happening while Dallas is seemingly just running all over teams on offense when we thought Kellen Moore was the whole thing keeping that offense together.
Nope, not at all. But I do want to bring up this comment here from Joel, who is our resident Packers fan. Joel, I just want to remind you were 3-6 heading into this game. The Packers are not a good team.
Their defense is all right. Slow down, Justin Herbert.
Well, when you're not feeding Austin Ekeler the football, that's not hard. But speaking of other teams that fucking suck, the Washington Commanders have lost twice this season to the New York fucking Giants. What? Seriously, the Giants have 3 wins on the year, and 2 of them come at the hands of the Washington Commanders. I want to read off these defensive stats right now. 29th in total yards, 30th in passing yards allowed, 21st in rushing yards allowed, 32nd last in points per game allowed. And Ron Rivera is a defensive-minded head coach. How does this man still have a job? New ownership comes in, takes over this team. Why have they not just said, all right, we're just cleaning house here? They went out and specifically targeted Eric Bieniemy to be their offensive coordinator. He's another one that has had plenty of opportunities in the interview cycles to get a head coaching position, has been constantly passed up. For everything that the defense has not been, the offense has been better. Sam Howell has way outperformed all expectations with Eric Bieniemy in this offense. Brian Robinson has been a revelation at running back. Bieniemy is making something out of nothing, basically. Why not move on from a lame duck head coach that you're firing at the end of the season anyway, and give Bieniemy the keys right now? He's got 6 weeks to turn around this team and see what they can do. And that's basically his head coaching audition at this point. I do not understand the thinking that Washington is doing right now by keeping Ron Rivera. They threw up the white flag. They already threw up the white flag when they traded Chase Young and traded Montez Sweat. I'm legitimately looking for reasons here. I do not get it at all.
Yeah. The thing is too, Sam Howell has done enough where I'm I don't even feel like they're trying to get Drake May or Caleb Williams. Sam Howell could keep this thing on the tracks for another year.
He's played well. He's taken a lot of sacks, but that offensive line sucks too.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty deep class for high-end offensive tackles.
Mm-hmm. I guess play your players against Washington. That's the lesson here.
Well, I mean, but I mean, I'll bring this up from Joel. Washington plays on Thursday. Rivera's out. All right, somebody's calling their shot. I like it. It's bold. I like it. Thanksgiving, we're giving thanks by firing Ron Rivera. That's what it is.
Didn't happen last year. Isn't that when somebody lost their job last year?
Oh, that's a good question.
Wasn't that the Colts' major comeback, worst comeback ever game on Thanksgiving Day?
They moved on from Frank Reich pretty early in the season before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then Saturday, rallied them to that one win, and then they lost everything else after that. Ryan, the diseased one, as he likes to claim. Hal looks shook on every play. He gets hit so much. He's now always waiting to get hit. He runs away from clean pockets. I mean, do you fucking blame him, Ryan? Like, seriously? I think he's been sacked like 50 times this year or something along those lines. Like, it's rough. Like, he's actually trending worse than Joe Burrow. And I saw a graphic today, actually, on Instagram. They were comparing the amount of times that Andrew Luck was sacked through his first four seasons, which I believe was like 119 or 118, something like that. Joe Burrow through 4 games, 148 sacks that he has taken. Sam Howell is trending to crush that number. Like, how can teams consistently trot out these god-awful offensive lines and expect quarterbacks to still perform? Like, I can't fathom it. It does not make any sense to me at all. So rough. So rough. All right. Cream or sugar time. These are our buys and sells heading into what is likely your trade deadlines. Because I know I've got a couple leagues that are coming up on trade deadlines. So, Austin, I'm going to start with you because you've got a couple of Jalen's here, and one of which that I brought up a few weeks back as my sell, but you're saying to buy him.
Oh, yes. Jaylen Waddle. We definitely are buying low on Jaylen Waddle. Look, he's only had one game with over 100 receiving yards all season, and he's scored 3 touchdowns, which, given the high volume of this Miami offense, I think is just too low. Part of the reason I'm buying low is I think you can get him pretty cheap right now. I think fantasy managers of Jaylen Waddle are pretty upset, but also Tyreek Hill is getting utilized so much in this offense. I'm worried about his health keeping up. And I'm not here to predict injuries and pretend like I know more than the physical conditioning staff of the Miami Dolphins. But there were a couple of times in this game where it looked like Tyreek Hill wasn't going to return. And as soon as Tyreek Hill exited for a period of time to get checked up, all of a sudden, Jaylen Waddle was getting peppered with targets the same way they pepper Tyreek Hill. And so in some ways, I'm ready to have Waddle ready in my backup so that if something happens to Tyreek Hill, I have Jaylen Waddle on my roster.
I'm going to bring this up from Ryan. Ryan, I do not hate Jaylen Waddle. I want to preface this. I'm a huge Jaylen Waddle fan. But you can also make the case that I do hate Jaylen Waddle because I just traded him in a deal to get CeeDee Lamb in Dynasty. So,
which I think was a great move by Joel, buying low on Jaylen Waddle for a team that's contending. Which is exactly why I was like, wow, I put this player in here. And then Josh went and sold, and Josh
we've been talking about that deal for a couple days now. And then I probably stupidly listened to the Dynasty podcast last night when he talked literally about my trade offer. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll up the offer, whatever. But hey, you know what? I've got arguably 3 of the top 4 Dynasty wide receivers now in CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and Jamar Chase. I'll take it. But I digress. This is not the year for high-end quality wide receiver 2s. Just my personal opinion. We are looking at wide receiver 1s in offenses, i.e. AJ Brown, i.e. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. Look how not great Deebo Samuel has been this year. Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle has struggled. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins has not been himself. They're like, teams are just hyper targeting these wide receiver 1s and saying, we pay you this much money for a fucking reason. Go win us the game. It's almost like play callers are just getting too lazy, or defenses realize that, hey, you know what? We need to try to have like quality, cornerback twos, and we're just going to slide a safety over to the wide receiver 1 and just let the wide receiver 2 go one-on-one. But the wide receiver 2 is just still not good enough to beat a quality corner. And maybe that's the issue. I don't know what the issue is, but there's an issue, plain and simple. And offensive coordinators are just saying, hey, AJ Brown, hey, Tyreek Hill, hey, CeeDee Lamb, go win us games. Like that, and that's kind of where I'm at. And that's ultimately why I went through and said, you know what? I just got to move on from Waddle. Give me Lamb. Let's go.
Yeah. And I think that's makes sense for where you're at. My kind of counterpoint to that would be, you drafted Jaylen Waddle to be a wide receiver 1 on your team. And it's clear that he's not that, to your point, Josh. But what I'm saying, now you can buy him as a wide receiver 2, a flex play, and he's going to be that. He's going to be a great flex play. You're not going to bench him, and he has the wide receiver 1 upside.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying he doesn't, because again, if something were to happen to Tyreek Hill, absolutely. He slides into that wide receiver 1 role. We've seen him do great things. We have. And that's not like, I'm not saying that Jaylen Waddle is a bad player by any means. What I am saying is this buy idea makes so much more sense in Dynasty to me than it does in redraft.
That's fair.
So, but with buy comes sell, another Jaylen
Warren.
There you go.
And this is about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Jaylen Warren's not going to break a 70-yard rushing touchdown every week. I do think he is a good change of pace back. I think he's a good player. But I just frankly don't trust the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to score touchdowns the rest of the year. I don't. They scored 10 points yesterday. And honestly, I'm shocked they scored that many. There was a point in this game where I thought they were just legit going to get shut out. And with that being the case, I don't have any interest in playing any Pittsburgh Steelers offensive player. I just don't know when they're going to score touchdowns. So I'm selling Jaylen Warren for somebody who is buying the dip. He's taken over the running back 1 role in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I like it. I did actually sell Jaylen Warren in one of my dynasty leagues. I was trying to give up Javonte Williams. And again, this was a huge package that I put together to get Jamar Chase and Kenneth Walker, which, hey, that's looking fantastic for me right now, with Jake Browning now as Jamar Chase's quarterback and Kenneth Walker now missing 3 games. So yay me sacrificing 3 first-round picks. But my buy in this scenario, speaking of the Bengals, Joe Mixon. I was very off the Joe Mixon train heading into this year. A lot of volume, not a lot of efficiency. Still really not a lot of efficiency, but he has looked better the last couple weeks. And losing Joe Burrow, you bring in Jake Browning, you can't tell me that this offense isn't now going to revolve around Joe Mixon and running the football. Like, you do not want to trust Jake Browning throwing the football 35, 40 times a game, like, at all. On Thursday night, they only ended up throwing the football 31 times, and they ran it 23 times. I expect those numbers to come a lot closer, if not your rushing attempts to go way higher. But even then, look what we saw with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They're going for, when they are passing, it's low A dot type of numbers. They're looking more between the 0 and 5 and 0 and 10 versus the 10-plus yard strikes. You're going to get a lot of quick passes to Jamar Chase and let him run up the yak. It's going to be the same thing with Joe Mixon out of the flat. So for me, I'm fully invested in if I can go get Joe Mixon for cheap, because what is he right now on the season in terms of running backs? Let me see. After this week, he is currently RB9, which still feels very misleading. God, running back scoring is so down this year. Jesus Christ. Oh, but yeah, I mean, he's averaging 14 fantasy points per game, which I guess among running backs right now, definitely do a hell of a lot worse. But if I can go get Joe Mixon, because maybe you can sell somebody like a Kieran Williams coming off of IR and be like, hey, you know what? You want these higher points per game? Maybe get another piece with Mixon. I would do it in a heartbeat. Makes a lot of sense to me.
My only concern with that is they might get a bunch of heavy boxes. now that they have Jake Browning under center.
Okay,
defenses
so
aren't going to be afraid of him going down the
yards.
field.
That's basically what we signed up for at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and then he leaves with a hamstring injury, and it's all done.
I'd be more worried with him leaving with a shoulder injury than a hamstring injury facing that many boxes, but regardless. And then my sell is I'm going with Raheem Mostert. I'm pretty sure I talked about him a little bit earlier in the season. 22 carries this week. Obviously, Devon Achane leaving after one carry and one target with a knee tweak, which sounded precautionary. But again, you're talking about a 31-year-old running back getting 20 carries a game this late in the season. Those carries are going to slowly come down, and you're just going to bank on efficiency at that point. He's currently the RB2. If I could move Mostert, get a Joe Mixon or a Brian Robinson plus a flex caliber or even a wide receiver 2 to replace a Diontae Johnson in my lineup, I would do that 100 times out of 100 at this point.
What I love about this too is I believe their schedule coming up is not the easiest schedule in the world for running backs. So they're coming up against the New York Jets. That's going to be a tough matchup.
They get them twice actually in the next few weeks.
Yeah, they get them twice in the next 4 weeks. Washington Commanders, they'll be fine then. Tennessee Titans, that run game is still tough. Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore Ravens, and then the Buffalo Bills in Week 18, which you're probably not playing in anyways. But their schedule down the stretch is pretty tough. I do worry about their ability to rush the ball moving forward. So I do like that one.
All right, and then our final segment of the day is what this show was built around. Chill the fuck out, people. These are the performances that left us all upset or maybe joyous, and then realizing, oh shit, this probably isn't going to happen. So, Austin, you're leading off with your namesake here, right?
Yeah. First off, we have Austin Ekeler. I don't believe that this is going to repeat itself. He had 10 rushing attempts, which is his lowest number of rushing attempts on the season. 2 catches on 3 targets, his second lowest target count on the season. I think they're just going to have to get back rolling, and they'll get back to running the offense through Austin Ekeler and Keenan Allen, who are their best offensive players outside of Justin Herbert. So I wouldn't worry about Austin Ekeler. He's going to bounce back. We've seen him occasionally have these down games, and then he comes back, scores 3 touchdowns, and we're all feeling good about him again. And he probably is mad at himself too for his own fantasy teams. So I must say, bounce back coming. Book it.
I hope so. But, I mean, can you really trust this Chargers offense right now?
Trust is a strong word.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And another dud, Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, so it's funny. It seems like we have a couple of hedges here. So Stefon Diggs, I think, is just a dud, a random blip. I'm honestly a little worried about this one because the vibes are off between Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen. I think there's something in the waters here. There's something to the preseason drama we heard about, and it does worry me a little bit for how the rest of the season goes between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. Just when I talked about earlier, Josh Allen going berserk for Khalil Shakir, he also went berserk for Ty Montgomery getting in the end zone.
I thought it was Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson. There we go. Ty Johnson. That's right. Getting in the end zone. And they panned to Stefon Diggs for like 2 seconds during that celebration. And Stefon Diggs was just deadpan, looked pissed. Like, why was that not me scoring the touchdown? There's something in the water there. I'm a little worried about this, but I think this is just a blip on the radar. There's no way Stefon Diggs is going to be this bad moving forward. He's coming off of Pat Surtain and Sauce Gardner. Like, it's just 2 down weeks. It should be good moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, he did still have 8 targets, so at least we can bank ourselves on that. And speaking of targets, my guy Garrett Wilson, again, I hope, crossing fingers. I mean, how many times do you see a player in fantasy, in PPR scoring, mind you, have over a 28% target share and not even score 1 fantasy point? He had 8 targets for 2 catches, 9 yards, and a lost fumble. That translated to 0.9 PPR fantasy points. In one league, it was negative 0.1 for me. So that was great. Love that. Look, maybe the Jets are moving on to Tim Boyle, which, let's be honest, that's not the solution. Zach Wilson definitely is not. You need a fucking miracle to get Aaron Rodgers back here shortly, because it's tough out in them passing streets in New York, let me tell you, for both New York franchises.
It's a struggle.
It's bad. But this is normally the segment where we would lead into our deep waivers, but Ryan typically does those, and I didn't feel like doing them. And Austin gave me a great idea because he's our DFS guy and said, hey, I put together this nice little like early DFS call outs for cash plays. I'm like, hey, we can do that here. So Austin, heading into week 12, what are we looking at for DFS?
Yeah, so first off, these are all players on the main slate. So if you're playing on Thanksgiving Day, these players won't be available to you. But for Sunday in DFS cash, those are the 50-50s, head-to-heads, and double-ups. I'm first off looking at Gardner Minshew, who is 5,100 on DraftKings and 6,700 on FanDuel, matching up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has been a dream matchup for quarterbacks. We just saw Brock Purdy get perfect QBR against Tampa Bay. And Brock Purdy's good, but that's ridiculous. Simply ridiculous. Next, this one kind of depends on how tonight goes, but I like DeAndre Swift matching up against the Buffalo Bills next week. They haven't been great against the run, and they did okay against the Jets, but I think that this defense is injured enough, and they're not going to know what's coming for them with this Eagles offensive line. He's 6,800 on DraftKings, 72 on FanDuel, so a little bit of a discount on FanDuel. Since we're riding with Gardner Minshew, we're also going to look at Josh Downs, who's 4,800 on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel. Again, love that matchup. On the flip side, the Colts are really bad against tight ends. So I love Cade Otton at 3,200 on DraftKings and 5K on FanDuel. And then initial players in my pool for defense is the Kansas City Chiefs. They are playing the Raiders. I'm only doing this on DraftKings, though, because they are 3,100 on DraftKings. They're one of the cheaper defenses on DraftKings, but they are the most expensive defense on FanDuel. I don't like paying for the most expensive defense in cash lineups. They're 5K on FanDuel, so you could still probably go there, but I prefer them on DraftKings this week.
Love that. I want to bring up a couple of things from the chat here before we get into our Monday preview. Our good buddy, let's see if I can connect this. There we go. Millie Mills, he offered up Kyler and either Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, or Diontae Johnson just to get Cortland Sutton because he needs a solid wide receiver one and got denied. So here's what I want to preface this, Austin. I get kind of where Millie's coming from here. Like at this point, you're just trying to like give pieces away to kind of improve. The problem is Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, Diontae Johnson are all wide receivers in god-awful offenses. So I can understand where the Cortland Sutton manager is coming from, not wanting to part with Cortland Sutton simply because neither of those wide receivers help replace the production they're losing with Cortland Sutton. Maybe they need a quarterback in Kyler, so they see the opportunity there, but also maybe they don't. So again, I don't know what their roster particularly looks like, but Austin, feel free to weigh in here.
Yeah, I think I'm a little surprised by this because it's not like the Broncos pass game has been lighting the world on fire. Like, yeah, Cortland Sutton got in the end zone.
Those touchdowns, man. Touchdowns.
I would think that Kyler Murray would be enough, but I don't know. That's unfortunate that didn't go for you. I wouldn't be getting rid of Josh Allen though. That's
no, absolutely not.
So
absolutely not. But here's the thing though. If you're trying to get a wide receiver one and you believe in Kyler, maybe moving Josh Allen is the way to go.
That is fair. I could see Kyler doing well. I mean, he's running the ball really well. He's running the ball more than Josh Allen is.
Yeah, that's fair. Nino, should I try and sell Cooper Kupp ASAP after hurting that same ankle he had surgery on, or wait to see how minor it is, Austin?
Depends a bit on the league. Depends on redraft or dynasty. I don't know that you're going to be able to get much either way, frankly. And I think that this is kind of a sit and wait type deal. I mean, I'm not looking to acquire Cooper Kupp right now personally, because I'm not trading for him and then risking him being out the rest of the season. So I don't know what you'd even be able to get for Cooper Kupp unless there's just a fantasy manager that, you know what, find the LA Rams fan in your league. I think that's going to be the way to go about this, because otherwise I don't imagine you're going to be able to get a ton for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, people kind of see the writing on the wall with him, unfortunately. So best I can say is just hold
tight. And here we're getting a little more context. Redraft and in the playoffs. So for sure need a wide receiver. Could get Tank Dell and Ford for him. Oh, if you can get Tank Dell, do that. Yeah, go. Oh, if somebody is willing to do that, yes.
100% do that. All right, George traded Kenneth Walker for Tony Pollard and picked up Zach Charbonnet.
Nice.
Go play the lotto, George. Go play the lotto, because that is some foresight, brother. That is some foresight. George also comes back with, should I trade Tua for DeAndre Swift? His other quarterback is Justin Fields. And would you move Chris Olave for Isaiah Pacheco? Let's start with the Tua for Swift. I would be just fine with this if I have Justin Fields at quarterback. Austin.
Same. Would definitely do that. Justin Fields looked good. He brushed for 100 yards on his first game back. I almost picked him for the shot of espresso this week. Like, he's good.
Yeah, 18 carries this week. The last quarterback in the NFL to rush 18 or more times in a game, Justin Fields last year. This next trade I'm a little less in love with. Chris Olave for Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco has one of the worst running back schedules going forward the rest of the season. I would be just fine sticking with Chris Olave, especially if Jameis Winston remains the starting quarterback for the Saints, depending on how long Derek Carr is going to be out.
Yeah, I'm with you. Coming out of the bye week, I would look for a bounce back from Chris Olave, and I agree. Also, Kansas City's run game has not been that good this year in general. Like, Pacheco is fun to watch, and I think because of that, people think he's better than what he is. But their run game has not been efficient, and so I think once he gets the wrong matchup, once he isn't falling in the end zone, all of a sudden his fantasy production is gonna go down.
Love that. All right. Last one from Nino. Also just traded Diggs and Connor this past week for Jahmyr Gibbs and Michael Pittman. Thoughts on the trade?
Don't love it. Don't hate it. Hard to trade away Stefon Diggs for me, but Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, looks like he's keeping the RB1 role in this backfield, which I'm honestly surprised about.
It's a 1A, 1B. Let's get it right, Austin.
Yeah, but he's the 1A now is the thing. That's the thing that surprised me. I expected Montgomery to stay the 1A.
Yeah, the rush share has definitely started to sway a little more towards Gibbs. And I heard this little fun play on words on the broadcast, and I absolutely love it. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, rhythm and bruise. I'm feeling it. It's very poetic, very much out of the blues scene of Detroit and Motown sound. I'm feeling it. I love it. That was a good one. So shout out to the Reddit user that they credited for that. I'm stealing that, buddy. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I don't love it, don't hate it. Pittman's definitely one of those that the name is probably less sexy than the production. So it tends to get a little lost in, hey, you know what? The production's there. He's seeing the targets and things are working for him. Connor obviously coming off of IR. The volume, the work has been there. The touchdowns have not. Gibbs obviously is on a hot streak. Diggs maybe coming back down to earth. I don't know. So I don't mind chasing the upside here with Gibbs and Pittman, in my personal opinion. So with that, let's go to our Monday night preview. Austin, we have the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs. You filled in a new line. Apparently, it's Chiefs -3 on DraftKings. I pulled it off of ESPN, where KC is -2.5. I believe they use Caesar Sportsbook on that one. The over/under at 45.5. I'm going to let you chime in first because obviously I'm very biased as an Eagles fan. Austin, how do you see this game working out?
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City. I'm taking them -2.5. I think coming off the bye week, Andy Reid's going to have something nice cooked up. Everybody's going to be well rested. So I'm a fan of Kansas City, and I'm going to give them the points. If it's -2.5, I'm definitely taking it. I think they can win by a field goal. If it's -3, I might avoid it just because I could see it pushing. For the over-under, I'll take the over because I think the Eagles are not doing great against the pass game. And so I could see Mahomes putting up like a 3, 4, 5 touchdown game.
The Chiefs don't have any wide receivers.
That's fair. But I think this is just going to be another shootout. I think honestly, I could see it being similar to how the Super Bowl played out. So I'll take the over, take Kansas City -2.5. Sorry, Josh.
No, honestly, I'm in the same boat. Andy Reid, I believe, has only lost 2 games in his coaching career coming off of a bye week. Both the Eagles and Chiefs were on a bye in week 10. So, I mean, if they wanted to set the stage for this showdown on a Monday night, they did a damn good job doing it. Both teams are at the top of their respective conferences. Both coming off a bye week, have a chance to get healthy. Eagles have a chance to work Kevin Byard more into their defensive scheme. Hopefully he's able to slow down Travis Kelce. I don't see that happening. But the Eagles' best run defense in the league, you might as well. Hopefully you took my advice and faded Isaiah Pacheco because I'm not buying into him in this game. I do think that if the Chiefs want to get rolling, look out for Jerick McKinnon because this is around the time last year when he started to heat up in the passing game and was RB4 from week 11 on. So guess what? Oh my God, it's week 11. We're entering Jerick McKinnon time. And the Eagles tend to struggle against pass catching running backs. So there is that. Yes, I do think the Eagles lose this week. Probably, like I said, going to be a close game. I wouldn't be shocked if they lose by a field goal. Very similar to the Super Bowl. If this game were in Philly, might feel a little bit differently. Going to Kansas City. Let's face it, Taylor Swift's in attendance. Travis Kelce's going to ball out. Just deal with it, Just deal with it. And with that, we come to the end. Austin, thanks so much for filling in, buddy. Appreciate you, man.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Fun time. Love to come air all the grievances.
Hey, that's really what this show is all about, Get it, lay it all on the table. Bitch, complain, vent, gloat. We can do that too, Not too much of that, but Joel, there was reports that she was going to be in Kansas City. God damn it. All right, so hey, maybe we might actually slow down Travis Kelce. And I do want to bring this up from Caesar from earlier. He needs 5.06 points from Kelce tonight. Please, God, not like this. I couldn't tell if he needed 5.06 from Kelce to win, or if, please God, not like this, like if he needs to keep Kelce under 5. So Caesar, if you're still listening, maybe a little bit of clarification, but
I take the over.
Right. It's funny because in our Club Dynasty League, I'm going against Ryan. He's up by about 3. I have Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and he has Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So
this will be fun. What could go wrong?
So I'm very invested in this matchup tonight for more than one reason, obviously. So, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting night. But Austin at Austin_FFL. Austin, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're working on, and all that good jazz.
Yeah, you can find me on X and Instagram at Austin_FFL, and then catch out DFS Academy Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Also have my DFS Cash article. The A-List drops every Friday.
Love that. You can find me at @the1Hudsonian on Twitter, fuck X, and basically every other social network that I'm not near as active on. But But more importantly, you can follow Club Fantasy on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, where you're hopefully watching, at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. For Austin, for myself, for Ryan at the Fantasy 5, that's 5 spelled out. Hopefully he will be back next week. Not that I don't love Austin, but he's got to work, and I don't want to keep him too much from work. So for that, enjoy your Monday night. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. You will not see us on Wednesday, for no pun intended. Hopefully we have a DFS show this week. We will definitely have Start Sit Different Day on Saturday at 11 a.m. So be sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page. Once again, that is at Club Fantasy FFL. For Austin, for myself, have a good rest of week 11. Have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy week 12. Peace out.